Teachers of Reddit, what are some positive trends you have noticed in today's youth? 95% of the things kids used to get bullied for 10 years ago are now largely accepted. When I was at school, the biggest bully used to abuse the nerds while actually boasting that he didn't even know how to turn a computer on. As a health pov, students tend to be drinking a lot more water than when I was at school. Probably around 80% of kids tend to have water bottles, I've noticed now. During my time in school they wouldn't let us have water bottles or any kind of drink in class. I remember back in grades 1-5 I always saw people thanking the janitor. My dad would always tell me how that never happened back in his day. Art teacher here, my 6-year-old students are really good with encouraging statements, absolutely unprompted by us. We were working with Claire, and the shyest girl, who had never spoken once, said, "Wow Riley, you did a great job on your bunny. It looks beautiful." Or when a girl cried because hers broke, a student said, "Don't worry Coco, you can repair it. It'll be okay." Just very kind things like that. You wouldn't believe a 6-year-old would have the selflessness to say. I think if you watched some of the shows they watch, especially at that age, you'd find that they're mirroring things they've watched. Shows like Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol are full of examples like this for them to learn from. They are not only more open about their own mental health, they are vigilant about their friends as well. Twice I've had students come to me concerned about a peer, once because a girl had started hurting herself and once because a boy was showing hints of suicidal thoughts. Both students are currently doing much better. We found out my daughter was self-harming and had suicidal ideations because her friends spoke up and asked the school counselor for help for their friend. I'm drill instructor. Fire department. I work for a career department, so the 18-19 year recruits I get aren't customers providing revenue by paying to be there. They are paid to be there and can be fired. It's a lot like the military. Our academy was built around Paris Island's doctrine by a couple former Marine DIs. A decade ago this was used to take advantage of them, badly. These days the wet behind the ears new high school grads are so incredibly, remarkably intelligent. Gone are the days where a recruit will blindly accept information. Now I have yet to have a recruit contradict a direct order, but in the presentation of information they will ask pertinent questions that absolutely keep us instructors accountable. And if I don't know the answer, oftentimes they will get on the internet and figure it out and bring it to me. Or they will bring several different possible answers to their questions and bring them to me for clarification. They also won't take injustice. In the fire service there is a long-standing rift between the old guard and the new. One former recruit was incorrectly disciplined for something he did not do, and it was proven as such. Unfortunately for him, his company officer and battalion officer were part of that old guard. Each emphatically urged him to take the discipline a formal write-up, plus exclusion from the pertaining activity for 12 months. To not rock the boat since you're new. Obviously he didn't. He fought it and won. But the old guard slandered his name and dismissed him as one of those disrespectful, self-centered millennials. Thankfully that mentality seems to be here to stay, as I see it more and more with every recruit class that comes through. The old ways of blatant injustice mislabeled as how we did it or respect are disappearing. As a university history professor, I've noticed that even first-year students are more willing to express countering opinions and views. There are far fewer who just regurgitate my lectures and instead offer counterpoints and disagreement, which is an amazing trend for academic debate. It wasn't until graduate work that I really felt comfortable disagreeing with an assigned reading or a professor, and the level of understanding needed to synthesize your own counter-argument is much higher than simple memorization. When data is at your fingertips at all times, there is much less need to memorize. Now, what you do with that information is much more important. This will be my 4th year working with kids with disabilities. The severity ranges from mild to severe. Not once in my 4 years have I ever had a kid ask, "What's wrong with him?" I've never had a high-functioning individual question someone else. And I really like that. Being kinder to animals. Jerks I grew up with used to hit strays with stones and sticks. Kids today are much more open with their feelings. I hear "I love you" so much more. Not between kids in relationships, but between friends. No matter the genders. It's an amazing and heartwarming thing to see here. My friend recently graduated while I'm still a high schooler, and we were typing one day and she ended the conversation with "I gotta go. Love ya." And I'm not the type to hug a friend, but I dang near cried at that "love ya." I wasn't sure if we could keep in contact with her in college, but I'm more confident now. Empathy. Children today are much more empathetic. I teach 5-6-year-olds and had 3 special needs children in my class this past year, with one being quite extreme. The children quickly picked up that child needed extra attention and would ask if they could help as well. These children give me hope, y'all. I'd say they're better at forming their own opinions on issues and morals, which I would largely attribute to their access to the internet and thus getting to see and hear a wider variety of viewpoints. I remember when it used to be that my dad likes Bush so I like Bush kind of thing, but now I hear kids have actually individual viewpoints and intelligent conversations about world issues. Plus, I feel like they're more open and honest. It's not uncommon for kids to tell me how they're feeling or what's going on with them in their personal lives or what they think of what's going on with the class or me. Usually all of this without any prompting. It helps me adjust to what they need and feel and want, and also just helps us build that bond. When I was their age, 7th grade, I was a steel trap when it came to talking to teachers about what was going on with me, and pretty much all my peers were the same. I teach 2nd grade. They are much kinder and they are much better readers than kids even 10 years ago. I work at a preschool and the kids are so kind to one another nowadays. They still do the usual kid stuff, biting, hitting, etc. But they rarely see gender as a barrier when it comes to girl play or boy play. They all share everything, and I think that's a trend the parents themselves have started changing at home. Not as a social message, just easier to let them play with what makes them happy. Kids are incredibly intelligent. Because of the internet they have now, they can learn about anything whenever and quickly. They also learn more because parenting is improved, teaching is improved, and so they have so much more research on what they're doing that they become more efficient. The resumes I see from high school students are better than what I had graduating from college. I'd also second that they are much kinder. Some of the things I overhear flabbergast me with how different things are from when I was in high school 18 years ago. As someone who works with a lot of interns and hires a lot of new grads, I second this. College kids are so remarkable nowadays. It continues to amaze me. They are so intelligent, hardworking, and driven to learn that I couldn't imagine my college self from 15 years ago surviving in today's world. Makes me feel great about the future. When kids actually commit to something, they are extremely resourceful. I feel like it's being raised with the internet at their fingertips. My daughter is 4 and her preschool is teaching her Spanish. At home, when she wants to know the Spanish word for something, she asks me to Google it on my phone. It's so crazy. They're more aware of the general goings on in the world and have a strong sense of justice. Along with that, as others have mentioned in this thread, they are more accepting of differences. The bully victim trope is less of a thing now, where I am, at least, and kids usually love and let live. The flip side of this is that a lot of kids are getting faulty information, and a lot of them carry fairly shocking, uninformed opinions because of what they heard or read on the internet. Yeah, this second paragraph is sadly very true. I will also say that it's true of many adults as well though, lol. Students want to learn. This is something many people misunderstand, especially some teachers. Students want to learn, but education is so slow to respond to society, especially technology, that we're asking 21st century students to learn in a mid to late 20th century pedagogy. My school still argues about cell phone policies, instead of embracing phones as the amazing resource they are. Our district talks about going one-to-one with laptops, when it would make more sense to integrate proper smartphone use into curricula. Honestly, we have almost an entire generation that walks into classrooms with the most important communication and learning device ever created, and we tell them to put them away? This is an excellent position. I will never understand why people are so afraid of technology. They're more pragmatic about the choices they make, taking measures to reduce the amount of student debt they are going to accrue. They are also much more accepting of people of other cultures. Much less discrimination, it seems. I see kids partaking in a wider variety of activities. The lines between stereotypical social groups are blurred much more than when I was a kid. Kids might be doing football one season, theater the next, and go to Lego camp in the summer. I teach emotionally disturbed kids who can't attend mainstream high school because of their behavior. These are kids that treat the majority of the people that they interact with like crap. They use slurs and swear and can just be all round horrible to each other. We have one kid who's full on autistic, but the parents refuse to have him diagnosed, so he's with us, not in an autism unit. They don't say a word to him. They listen to him rant about chickens and rabbits and even ask him questions about it. It's so bizarre to see kids frothing at the mouth and calling me a fricking C and then gently redirecting the autistic kid away. They're so much more accepting of disabilities than my gen was. It's great. I have noticed that my freshmen, for the most part, tend to be very open, I guess is the right word. They seem to readily share their thoughts, ideas, problems, etc. with each other. They put each other's thumb fingerprints in their phones, readily share them, and don't really have anything to hide. They are also super honest and upfront with me. I don't know if this is truly going to turn out to be a positive thing in the long run, but their expectations of privacy are very different than mine. I think it is an offshoot of social media culture. Have much more focus on the environment than my generation. Collaborative learning through taking class notes on things like shared Google Docs, students adding comments where they don't understand parts of a lecture, and other students will explain. I went to college much older than the norm and this blew my mind. We also had shared drop boxes, flashcards, and even live Google Doc notes. It seems to me that students today are increasingly more aware, curious, and resourceful. Everything from climate change to science, from the arts to socio-political considerations. They question things more directly, and are adept at exploring and finding answers as they adroitly navigate the internet. Imagine growing up and anything that interested you just look it up, is making for very smart kids. Kids are more technology and research savvy. They're more practical in their goals but really aren't afraid to take risks. I appreciate that. As everyone else has said, kids' empathies are through the roof. They're more connected to each other, and while that can cause problems and bullying, a lot of which we can't see, for example, Snapchat, it also means they genuinely know each other better. Something we've also focused on, which has changed from even 4-5 years ago, is their health and level of stress. While they still want to get into a good college at my school, they are starting to focus on finding the right school for them, which very rarely is an Ivy. I commend them a ton, because I still have that elitism bias, but I'm working on it. Also, kids are more outspoken about their identity. The number of trans kids at my small school seems high, but is really the appropriate size for the grade level. According to average statistics, we're offering training next year to all of our seniors to lead discussions on race, bias, inequality, etc., because they demanded that we do so. I love that they're willing to advocate for themselves and what they need. It makes my job so much rewarding when I know we're providing what they need. I do health class for 14-16-year-olds. They always ask how to satisfy the opposite gender and seem less selfish. Probably because TV and movies have made a joke about the unsatisfied spouse for like 30 years. Not a teacher, but I've noticed a thing going around my school that the whole class tends to band together and become like a family. Also, if a random person, whether child, teacher or even parent, harasses one of them, they kinda band and attack the person, usually with words and death threats for the kids. They got us in the first part, not gonna lie. My students read constantly. Yes, it may be done through a different medium than I grew up with, but their literacy and ability to identify tone, author's purpose, and underlying theme is exceptional. When they are glued to a device, they are actually learning about the nuance of language. Kids care about the environment, which is more than can be said for a lot of their parents. Acceptance is definitely the biggest one. I teach 8th grade, and had a transgender boy who came out over the summer. One of the most popular boys in school and him formed an incredible friendship and even dressed as each other one day for fun. The really popular kid is a preppy jock, and the other boy is totally punk rock. And this is just one story of many. Yes, there are still those butthole kids who target anyone who is different, but they're now in the minority. I do teacher aid work for K 2nd grade, And man, Fortnite is so popular with the kids. I used to hate hearing about Fortnite every day, until I realized that everyone was excited about Fortnite. The children didn't discriminate when they were excited. Boys and girls and students of color all would floss together. They have something to unite them, where I didn't feel this way when I was in elementary school. I learned to allow children to be children. Flosses to unite. I teach year 1. I've noticed that they care a lot about the environment, always wanting to recycle, stop driving cars because of the smoke. One kid even saw me drive into school and told me I wasn't caring about the environment and should ride a bike. They're also incredibly empathetic towards their friends, peers, animals, doesn't matter. For 6-7-year-olds who are typically supposed to be self-absorbed, I think this is pretty cool. They are very accepting as well. There's a boy in the class next door with ASD, and occasionally when he has a meltdown, the kids from next door come to my class. After explaining why, all of my kids understand that his brain works differently, and at the moment, his brain is probably confused and doesn't know how to process his feelings. None of them make fun of him, call him bad or naughty, which I think definitely would have happened when I was a kid. Definitely more accepting and open of LGBT friends, family, and celebrities. A lot of the middle schoolers I've worked with in the last few years are actively confused by the way so many adults make a huge deal out of it. When I was teaching, a student asked me if I was married. I said no. Then he asked if I had a boyfriend or girlfriend. The fact that he presented both options made me realize I was interacting with a very different generation. Not a teacher, but I've noticed the younger generation will not accept just any job with lousy pay. This is positive because eventually the scale on lower labor for more work will be tipped, as there will be shortages. Also, the younger generation aren't afraid to tell their bosses that whatever extra work is not required of them or is not within their job description. A lot of companies has been taking advantage of people recently. And yet this is often framed by adults as her entitled generation is too dang picky and wants to be treated like special snowflakes at work and earn CEO pay straight out of college. Say what you will about Fortnite, but kids thank the bus driver now way more than they used to. Johnny thanked the bus driver you bought. Johnny has thanked the bus driver. Honestly, everything is better today. Kids are emo, smarter, kinder, more aware of the world around them. On that last point, I think that's completely due to the internet age. They have access to so much more than we did, and a lot of them use that power really well. Boys feeling free to show affection towards each other and being more intimate and physical in their interactions makes the boys happier and contributes to an overall better classroom environment. Kids are much more kind and accepting of those with special needs. Just more kind and accepting in general, actually. To add on to that, our school almost has like no bullies other than just the popular girl group being a popular girl group. I have tons of friends in different grades and almost no one is downright awful to anyone. They may talk smack about that person or whatever, but no one physically or mentally bullies anyone. It is a great thing to grow up in such a nice school. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.